In the last video, we talked about the role of overlays to make an engrossing yet compact video. There are three hurdles to cross now. The first is temporal synchronization, that is when to show an overlay. The next is spatial synchronization, that is where to show on the screen. And last but not the least, how to keep on talking smoothly with well-chosen words. Now this last point, which I did not mention in the last video, is particularly important for us because we are not native English speakers. Also, we are used to a rambling style of presentation more suitable for physical lectures. The new system will help us to cross all these hurdles. Let's see how. Well, let's look through an example. Suppose that we want to show a graph. Now we can point to its various parts, like this is the x-axis, this is the y-axis. But if I want to point along the curve, that is difficult because my finger goes behind this yellowish rectangle. So then what I can do is that I can make it translucent, so that now you can see my finger behind the yellow rectangle and you can see me pointing at the curve. Now we can also add details step by step, like for example we can add two dashed lines and I can point exactly at the position. Then we can also try to add one nice rectangle. Now when we lecture in a class, we usually write down the important terms on the board when we mention them for the first time. An overlay like this is the analog that we use in a video. Now the problem is sometimes a big overlay like this might obscure your face, but then I can just move my head away because I can actually see this overlay floating right in front of me, so that I can move my head and not wait for the video personnel to figure out the right place to put it, because my head is more flexible than the overlays, so I can just dynamically adjust by moving my head slightly. Well, now let's look behind the scene and see how all these were achieved. Well, in order to create that video, I first had to create those overlays, and those overlays may be created either by the instructor or by the PLPs. So we first have to transfer those things to the mobile or the tablet. Let me show you where I have put them. I have put them in a particular folder called transfer. And for every session, I have got one folder. By one session, I mean all the things that it recorded in a single sitting. So if I go to the second thing, I will see that I have things like some pictures, E1, E2, etc., PNG, and an index file which gives the list of the pictures in the correct order. And I also have a file which stores the prompt, that is whatever I am going to say. These are all ordinary text files. So I can show you what's inside prompt.txt. It says, let's go through an example. That's the first thing that I had to say. Then it says, suppose that we want to show a graph, and etc., etc. So this is just an ordinary text file that you can edit if you want, right in your mobile phone. Okay. So once I have this thing ready, then I head towards my app, which is called Glassboard, and I will click on that. And I have to specify the particular folder that I want to use for this session. In this case, it is folder number 2. I will select that. Select. And once the app starts running, it will give me this rectangle with the word portrait written in this way. So what I have to do is I now have to start my camera. So I will start the camera and set it up. So I will now put it in the landscape mode. So up to this point, everything will be done by the PLPs. Okay, now we'll have to start recording. So you have to now say all those things, but we have to synchronize between the overlays and whatever I am saying. So this synchronization is to be done automatically. So we must give a common point where the synchronization starts, and for that the trick is to tap anywhere on the screen and say O. So I'm going to do that, O. And there is a little message that floated here saying O, and the app just registered this particular time point. And then I will say K, K. So using these two sharply uttered sounds, the video editing personnel will be able to understand which are these 2 points. So the app knows these 2 points because I tapped, and the recorded video knows these points because of my sharp voice. So both the things can be aligned. Once you align them at this point, everything else will be taken care of by the app. Okay, so now I have to start lecturing. Now there are various ways by which you can proceed. The way I did was the following. I basically used my laptop to press a particular key, the space bar, and as a result I saw in the left half the prompt. Now this is the thing that the viewer is not going to see, and I can see it says let's go through an example. Now this particular prompt is placed very close to the camera, so when I am looking at this prompt, it just seems I am looking at the camera. For example, if I am looking at my face in the video, I seem to be looking off screen. But when I look at the particular text, now it seems that I am looking exactly at the camera. And I say, let's go through an example. And while doing so, I also just go to the next prompt by hitting space bar on my laptop. And then I keep on reading. Suppose that we want to show a graph. After that I can see a star. That means you now have to show the next frame. So you just hit the cursor key. So let me do that, and immediately you will see the graph. And I continue. We can point to its various parts. Now when I point to its various parts, I will say various things. Naturally, writing down each and every detail is very boring. So I've just written do. So now I am actually doing it. I'll say I want to show this is y-axis, this is x-axis, and when I am doing it, I notice that this is opaque. So I have to make it slightly transparent, and for that I can just hit the upward cursor key, and that will make it slightly transparent. Now I can point and do things. Now I am not following the prompt, because when I am seeing this particular plot, in that case I am on my own. I can say things smartly. Only when I have to say things blankly on the screen, then it becomes difficult. And also remember that this plot is what will go into the final video, but this rectangle will not go into the video. And I say here I have added 2 vertical lines, so I will add one more thing. I will say I have added 2 vertical lines, and then I will say next I am drawing a rectangle. And after I have done that, I will move again, hit the space bar, and as a result I will come to the next set of my what do I say? You see, when I have to speak without prompt, I just continue to get confused. I get to the next prompt. When we lecture in a class, we usually write down the important terms on board when we mention them, etc. And then it says that you go to the next slide. And that next slide, you see, it's a big thing, but I can see where it is. So I can see my face here, and I can see this particular thing, so I can nicely move my finger off. And I can also make this a perfectly opaque thing, so that I do not get covered by this. So I can move my face here, and I can point things like this, and I can bring my face back. And then I will just get rid of this thing, because say I have finished using this. In that case, I can just eliminate this, and then I go to the last prompt. It says, oops, sometimes a big overlay like this might obscure your face. No problem. I said move, so now I have to move. You can just move your head slightly, because you are really seeing the overlay as if it is floating in front of you. And finally I say, well, now let's look behind the scene and see how all these were achieved. So I can now move my hands, etc., as if I am really saying it extempore, but really I am not saying it extempore. I am really looking at all the prompt, which will not show up there on the screen. Okay, now And now that I have done, I will just hit X on the laptop, then my software will end, and that's it. Now I will just take the recorded stuff and take whatever is the output of the app and put them together. That is again something the PLPs will do for you. Okay, that's basically how the system works. Now in this example, I focused only on static images, still things coming here and there. We can animate them. So we can make a cube rotate, we can make some overlay come from this point to that point and things like that. If you want, I can tell you more details by email or by web page, but let me stop the video right here.